Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting of February 17th, 2026. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members present and establishing a quorum are council members Fulcher, Beaumont, Hanford, Walker, Gamble, Fisher, and Blair.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item of business is public comments. This is limited opportunity for people to speak to the council during this council meeting. Pursuant to council rules of procedure, oral public comment is limited to in-person comment only and must comply with the standards set forth in the council rules. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Information on where to send written comments is on tonight's agenda and on the screen. The first person signed up is Olin Seibert. Come on up. Please state your name, area of residence, or association with the city, and we'll start the timer. Thank you.
Here?
Yep, right there.
Okay. My name is Olin Seibert. I've been a resident of the Chain Lake area for 5 years now, and I enjoy it very much. I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak to the council tonight. I'm here because I just very recently learned about the Davis annexation proposal. And although I'm not an abutter, I will drive by it pretty much every day. And I've seen what high-density development looks like because the giant main view development of cheek-by-jowl houses up there is, well, compact, and I feel does not represent the kind of rural, nature-driven environment that we ought to be preserving. I like the trees. I like the animals. I love seeing the animals in my backyard. I want to continue to see that and not drive them away with ever more high-density, compact, treeless development such as we already have up on the hill where I live. So I speak against the Davis annexation proposal. I hope that that does not go through because I believe in the natural world and how important it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person up is Deborah. How do you say your last name? Behrens. Come on up. Please state your name, area of residence, or association with the city, and we'll start the timer. Thank you.
My name is Deborah Behrens, and I live off of Chain Lake Road. My husband and I just moved here about 6 weeks ago, and the area where we moved from was building a lot of high-density houses. The roads were getting overburdened. We heard sirens all the time, and crime was increasing. We moved to Monroe for the small town charm and natural beauty of mountains in the background, grasslands off of Highway 2, and the forested areas off of Chain Lake Road. I love hearing the trains, the frogs, owls, seeing the deer, and hearing an occasional rooster every morning. However, I feel I'm taking my life into my own hands every time I turn onto Chain Lake Road. It's already extremely busy from the new housing developments and cars entering from Brown Road. Chain Lake Road has curves and hills, and I'm surprised there isn't a better school zone signage at the elementary school. I feel the road cannot safely absorb additional traffic without a substantial infrastructure upgrade. If the Davis and other properties are sold to developers, my husband and I will be looking at what we just moved from. Once the land and the trees are gone, the rural feeling will be lost and the transformation, in my opinion, will be unattractive. The intrinsic worth of undeveloped land in Monroe is its inherent value, not additional tax revenues. I feel the cost of annexing and developing along this corridor outweighs the benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a Mr. Hernandez here? You listed just to listen. Are you here just to listen, or would you like to speak? Yes, please come up. Yeah, up to the podium, please. So if you could state your name and your association, and we'll start the timer for you.
Hi, my name is Cirilo Hernandez. I live for 30-some years in Monroe, and I've tried to do something to community, but it's too hard to find people to help. So my thing is do something like Cinco de Mayo in Monroe. So I don't know if it's possible or what I need. So you guys give me help or just question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. There's no one else signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak tonight? Okay. Seeing no one else who wishes to speak, the public comments portion of the meeting is now over. Thank you. The next item is discussion item 7.1, review of the park board recommendations for festival lot with Kevin Teague. Mr. Teague. You did. I'm so sorry. We should have done that right after public comments. Right now. Do we want to do that? All right. Sorry, Kevin. You can stay there if you want. This is what happens when I don't have a script. Okay, we will start with council member reports. So let's see. I started, I think, with Walker last time or Gamble. I can't remember. We're going to start with Councilmember Beaumont. We're going to start in the middle. Yes. Mix it up.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things, just sort of community things that I'd like to share this week. Over the weekend, my father was hospitalized. He's okay, and he's home. But I was just reminded of the excellent care that we have at Evergreen Health here in Monroe, and the caring people, the state-of-the-art facility. We are really, really lucky to have the hospital that we do, and the doctors, nurses, staff, everyone was absolutely wonderful, very caring, and just reminded me that we're a city of around 20,000, and we are just really fortunate to have this level of care. Minutes away, I live in the Frylands, so it was minutes away, literally. So that was one very positive outcome. The other is I got a chance, most of you know I'm a emergency substitute teacher working full-time, and I got a chance to sub at the high school on Thursday, and I usually do elementary or middle school, and it was just a delight to be around high school students and staff at the high school, and just really very, very intelligent, polite, wonderful students, and it just was heartwarming. I learned something, actually. The lessons were great. I subbed for a teacher named Tara Bennett up there, and of course it was history, so I loved that. But it was just, again, a real bright spot in my week. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanford.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I would love it if we could have staff or somebody follow up with the gentleman with the question about Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, thank you.
Second of all, it's warm enough in here now, so I have extra jackets. If anybody needs to borrow a jacket, I brought extra, but I don't need them tonight. So thank you to the city staff for getting the heat going. Appreciate that. I attended the grand opening for Envara Aesthetics with some of you. A little later than what we were told, but it was great to see. So I think that's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Blair.
I have had no meetings or anything to report on for this week.
Thank you. Councilmember Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. Still taking some notes here. Attended Monroe Community Coalition meeting, which was great. A lot of wonderful people in there talking about keeping our youth safe, which is vitally important to having a healthy community. That was great. They do meetings about once a month, so no real details coming out or groundbreaking things yet. So we'll just kind of keep working on those things. And then, of course, with me up here, I have to bring up Highway 2. So 3 more fatalities this last week. Between 522 and Stevens Pass, I think we're at 7 fatalities in September. So just to kind of keep that on people's minds as far as when you guys write to our legislators for funding, us talking to our legislators for funding, the amount of people that are dying on that highway is pretty astronomical. Other thing, update is I started garbage pickup again. Took a little break during holiday. And this is down in Alborland. So 1 unoccupied encampment was found, 4 occupied encampments. Those have been put onto Monroe Listens, so we can go down and have professionals offer services and do all the things that they do to support the folks down there that need help. I'm at 23 bags and about 805 pounds in 3 days. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
We got nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Gamble.
The only thing I just wanted to call out, we lost an icon in our valley, and David Hose, and I just wanted to, and I just think it's just recognizing the impact that he's had on our community, and just the amount of joy that he brought with all of his art, and I'm so glad that he was able to do this for us, and I just he's just on my mind. So anyway, prayers to his family, and he was just a great artist and human, so we're gonna miss him. And then you already talked about the Cinco de Mayo, so that would be great to.
He's already following up.
Fantastic. All right. And then just because I have to give personal updates, because you guys are always wanting Bruiser for local events, and we haven't secured Bruiser for Monroe, but they will be at the Lime in Kirkland on the 28th of March for those that are interested. So
28th of March or February?
March.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Councilmember Fulcher.
Thank you. I also mourn David's loss. He was, I consider him a friend. Had enough off-site conversations that I just really love what he brought to our town. So he will be missed, and I look forward to seeing him again. The other thing that I did want to mention that Kevin also mentioned was the ribbon cutting, which, yes, we were all 2 hours late to, not by any fault of our own, but I thought it was very cool that 4 of us showed up to congratulate a new business coming to town. So for all the people who say, oh, Monroe should have this business, they should have that business, it takes a lot to start a business. It is not as easy as you think, and it takes putting your neck out there. So I really appreciate it when someone is willing to do that and to bring that sort of venture to our little town. So congratulations to Invara Aesthetics, and thank you all for being involved people.
Oh, thank you. City Administrator Report, extended agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Looking forward on the Council's upcoming agenda for the 24th, next Tuesday. We will have a Transportation Planning, Parks and Rec, and Public Works, otherwise known as P3 Committee meeting. At that meeting, we will approve the meeting minutes from January, approve the 2026 committee work plan and scooter regulations with Jacob Roberts and Chief Jolly. For the regular council business meeting under the consent agenda, we have accounts payable, meeting minutes, payroll, authorizing the mayor to accept completion of the Curry View Playground renovation. Under unfinished business, we have interim housing ordinance with Anita Marrero. And under new business, we'll have authorized the mayor to sign a contract for the executive recruitment services, authorize a new pay range classification for deputy finance director, and introducing pre-annexation zoning for the Davis properties. Excellent. Thank you, clerk. Appreciate that. Department reports, we have police, and then, of course, an executive session for potential litigation.
Great, thank you. Oh, still going.
Yep, I have one more. For the special council workshop on March 3rd, we will have emergency management, so an overview of the comprehensive emergency management plan update, hazard mitigation plan update, council roles and responsibilities, and then an overview of felony prosecution standards and case referrals with Chief Jolly.
Excellent. Any questions, council? Councilmember Gamble?
No, it's just left on.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
Okay. City Administrator report?
All right, thank you. Just a reminder that the council workshop on the 3rd will start at 6 p.m. for that meeting. And then a cause for applause or kudos for our building department. They received a kudos from an individual who is opening up a new daycare. So something that's needed in the Monroe community. It is located over by Scapegoats, took me a minute, off of Woods Creek Road. So just underneath where the Whitfield's licensing is on that at that location. So
Yep.
It was a difficult project to complete, but the owner had some really great things to say about staff in our building department and how they assisted her in getting that site opened. On the legislative agenda, we have Leah McCorkle who will come up and provide the council with a quick overview of where we're at for the 2026 state legislative session.
Thank you, Deborah, and good evening, Council. I was asked to provide just a brief update on where we're at with the legislative session. Today, February 17th, is actually a pretty big day in the legislature. It is the House of Origin cutoff. So essentially that means any bill that does not make it out of its originating chamber, that being the House or the Senate, may be considered a dead bill for the remainder of the session unless it is designated by either the governor or the speaker that it is deemed necessary to implement the budget. So we will have a very good understanding of where the rest of the legislative session is going after midnight tonight. It also represents the procedural midpoint for the session in terms of the legislative deadlines that we were seeing. Other House cutoffs that are substantial and that we will see kind of progress even quicker as we accelerate towards the end of the session are the opposite House floor cutoff, which is March 6th, and then the end of the legislative session is currently scheduled for March 12th, so less than 30 days left in this short legislative session. In other big legislative news, the Economic and Revenue Forecast Council adopted their official revenue forecast on Monday, just this last Monday. Overall, the revenue report showed increasing revenue estimates, which is good news for the state of Washington. General fund revenue estimates increased across the board in all of the bienniums that they were forecasting. So in 2025, 2027, it is now at $7.4 billion, which is an increase of about $650 million from the last November forecast. In the 2027 to 2029 biennium, it increased to $74.8 billion, an increase of about $750 million from the November forecast. And then they put in their first forecast for the 2029 to 2031, biennium at $80.6 billion. Overall, it's potentially not surprising with this logic train that these economic conditions have increased since the November forecast, leading to these increased revenue forecasts. The council forecasted that nominal personal income growth increased, exports from Washington increased, and employment growth increased. At the same time, there were a couple of negatives. Inflation is continuing to increase, and there is lower than expected housing construction in Washington state. Regardless, lawmakers in both chambers are going to use this forecast to determine where they're going to go with the rest of the session, especially with budget items. And operating budgets, now that this is out, are expected to begin to be released to the public starting next week. That's the week of February 22nd. So that is something to look forward to. Other than that, the city is continuing to monitor bills relating to the city's adopted legislative agenda. I won't go over all of them, but some of them that you might be aware of that are still moving through the process include House Bill 2266, that's the STEP housing bill, House Bill 2489, establishing standards regulating the use of public space for life-sustaining activities, engrossed Senate Bill 5729, streamlining the permitting process, and Senate Bill 6239, requiring arbitration for tort claims against the state of Washington and its subdivisions. So once again, we're continuing to monitor all of those bills as well as a plethora of others, and we will continue to, of course, keep the City Council apprised to what we are seeing throughout the legislative session and come back with a finalized report of the bills that actually make it all the way through that session and the final deadline. So with that, I will conclude my report.
Any questions, council? Great, thank you. And then I have nothing to report tonight, so Kevin Teague, if you want to come back up. So next item is discussion item 7.1, review of the park board recommendations for the festival lot.
Before I begin my presentation, thank you, Mayor Cutterback and council. Spoke very briefly to Mr. Hernandez, and he wanted to extend an invitation to you all to the Mexican Family Festival and Rodeo this weekend at the fairgrounds. It's Saturday from 1 to 10 p.m. So that's something he meant to say earlier, and wanted to pass that along. So thank you, council, and for the record, my name is Kevin Teague. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Monroe. Tonight, I'm bringing back to you the Park Board recommendations in response to council's questions from September 16th regarding the festival lot. So go ahead to the next slide. As part of my presentation, I'll review council's direction to the Park Board. I'll discuss the Park Board's first recommendation and then provide a brief review of the park's CIP, as well as discuss the Park Board's second recommendation, and then go over the Park Board's brainstormed list of site activation ideas before turning it back to the mayor and council for discussion. So next slide. I'll start with a quick review of council's direction to the Park Board, reminding council that you all selected option number 3 of the 4 different design options. Go ahead to the next slide. Council had asked the Park Board, there was a list of questions, but I'll start with the first 2, that the Park Board prioritize council's comments, and then that the Park Board would identify potential issues for council to consider related to those comments. The Park Board felt that these first 2 directives would be important to convey, along with all of council's wishes for the festival lot, to the design team once one is selected. This way, all of the points that council raised will be considered in the context of the project design. So that's to say that information will get conveyed forward as the design moves forward. Council asked for 2 specific recommendations. The first, you had asked that the Park Board provide a recommendation of how the festival lot project might fit within the park's 6-year CIP or capital improvement plan. And the second recommendation that you asked for was, it was requested that they include a recommendation for the potential location of a spray pad and whether that be at the festival lot or some other location. And then lastly, as council discussed the festival lot project, there was a desire to come up with ways to activate the site even before the site is developed. And so the Park Board spent some time brainstorming ideas, and I'll share those with you. Next slide. The first recommendation from the Park Board is how the festival lot fits within the 6-year capital improvement plan. And the board recommends that in 2026, staff seek grant opportunities for the design of the project. And then in 2027, they recommend moving forward with design utilizing either grant funds or park CIP funds for that design cost. excuse me, either grant funds or park CIP funds from the 2027-2028 biennial budget, recognizing that having a shovel-ready design will make the project more favorable for grant applications in the future. And then looking at 2028 to 2029, seeking grants for the construction of the project and include grant match money in the 2029-2030 budget. And then lastly, in 2030, plan to construct the project using a combination of funding depending on what is available, be it grants, levy funds, or CIP funds. And it's important to note that this timeline can be accelerated if the city is successful, either with a park levy or with grants that we would apply for. Next slide. This is the Parks CIP from the PROS plan, and I just show this to identify that the festival lot was contemplated when the PROS plan, the most recent PROS plan was put together, and actually even before that. However, I wanted to just show it is clearly identified in the 2022 PROS plan as part of our 6-year CIP. So next slide. And then again, the festival lot is listed in our park CIP of our 2025-2026 adopted budget. And this is showing the money that was allocated for the concept level planning and the public outreach that happened in 2025. Next slide. The second recommendation from the Park Board is in response to Council's question of, is the festival lot a good location for a splash pad? The Park Board had actually discussed this at their August meeting and then again in October, and their response was consistent. The Park Board does not recommend a splash pad be incorporated into the festival lot. This is due mainly to limited space on the site and recognizing that the addition of a splash pad reduces the amount of space for the primary function. Secondly, there were some safety concerns with the site's exposure to roads on 2 sides and an alley, as well as on-site parking. However, the Park Board does recommend including the question of where to locate a splash pad as part of the PROS plan update, which is scheduled for 2027. And this gives us the opportunity to extend our analysis across the whole city park system and select a location, a size, and a scale of splash pad that most appropriately fits our community. Next slide. So lastly, I'll quickly review the list of site activation ideas from the Park Board. Just a note that this list is in no priority order, nor have any of these ideas been evaluated for their effectiveness or practicality or cost. These are truly brainstormed ideas, so I'll just go through those with you real quickly. So utilize the existing parking lot lighting, repair if needed, extend the downtown string lights and possibly other downtown street amenities across this block. Put up signage identifying the space as a future public space, and this has been done already. Allow food trucks to park within certain hours on the site, maybe 1 time per week. Host art or gem shows using the parking lot as well as the building. Install or allow a temporary ice rink in the parking area. Use the bank building as a co-working space with city-provided Wi-Fi where people can drop in and work remotely. Next slide, please. There's a few more. Allow seasonal pop-up shops to utilize space both inside and outside of the building. Allow public reservable meeting space in the bank building for scouting groups or HOAs, similar to the space that's available at the library. Use the parking area as a starting point for the ATV parade that's part of the Light Up Monroe event. Food truck lot with a tented eating area, And then lastly, potentially host summer weekend tournament space for outdoor games like cornhole. And next slide, please. Those are all of the brainstorm ideas. And I'll turn it back to you, Mayor and
Thank
council.
you. Council questions? Councilmember Beaumont.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is really wonderful. I can see there's been a lot of work done with the brainstorming ideas. One of the things I really like about your report is you go back into the background of this and talk about how the idea of a festival lot first was proposed by the Hispanic community in 2008. I think that's really important to know that that was the genesis of this discussion, and that we're all these years later finally making good on that, which I love. As a member of the park board for 8 years, I have to say the splash pad idea, although I think would be wonderful, I'm really happy that the park board decided not to include that in this space. I don't think it's the right place for it. I also know we talked extensively about the maintenance costs for a splash pad. We have hotter weather than we've ever had, but I just, in Spokane and places like that, they have a lot of splash pads in their parks, but I would just caution looking at the cost of that in the future. And last but not least, I love the idea that that might be a place where we could have food trucks. I love the co-working idea. Just all of those brainstorming ideas that you came up with, a lot of them are really, really fantastic. And just wanted to say good work and thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fisher.
Yeah, thanks for that report. I love all the ideas. I love the idea of the festival lot downtown. I like all of your brainstorming ideas. I think it's going to be a great place for the community. And then one thing I would throw in is I know some communities will truck in snow since the pass isn't very far and do like a rail jam down there, which might be also kind of a fun thing to do. That's all I got. Thanks for the report. It was great.
Thank you. Any other Councilmember Blair?
This is mainly just a conversation piece for future thought for other council members to know my opinion on this, because I wasn't here when you guys have discussed the previous which options to go with and stuff. My concern is with so many parking spaces on the site. I know people complain about parking in Monroe. There are parking spaces that are downtown on the residential blocks that people don't use. They feel like they're too far. I just want to go back to say this is supposed to be a festival lot, not a parking lot. And so my concerns, or what I'll keep saying when we talk about this a lot, is I'd like to see more space for people connecting and less space for parking. If you go down there today even, there's the spots are almost all full, and we're not even activating the site. And so I feel like the 35 spaces will not be just for the people to use for the festival lot. Obviously, it's for downtown, and I think, it's already being used that way, and that's not a good use of the space.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Councilmember Hanford.
Thank you, Mayor. So that sounds great. All of this is wonderful ideas. Wondering how soon we can keep moving.
Do you want to give an update on the chamber lease and
Sure.
where we're at with that? Because that helps activate the building sooner than later, so maybe just an update on that.
Yeah, we have been in discussions with the chamber, as most of you are aware. I think we've ironed out the primary issues, and right now our contract is with the city attorney with final review of that. I say that, and if he comes back and says there's a fatal flaw, it might take us a little longer to work that out. My hope is we'll have the lease worked out by the end of this week, and unless there's something that I've missed. So we'll see that, and hopefully it shouldn't be any longer than the end of the month. We should be able to get it all ironed out.
Yeah, thank you for your work on that, Mr. Teague. Councilmember Gamble.
Appreciate all the work. I did want to talk a little bit about the parking spaces thing, because it's interesting how, just from a history perspective on how I like all of them. I know when we looked at this, let's say head number 3 is the one that from a council perspective we're in favor. The one thing I know parking spaces are important to the downtown. And one of the things of why it was of interest to me, and I know others that have been here for a while, is that we got a petition of, what was it, 300, 500? I don't know. When we took parking places away, when it was 6 spots that were lost downtown. And so I get from a parks perspective that parking doesn't go, always with. But this is also the fulfillment of something that we as a council body said at that particular time that we would be on the lookout for, in the future, incorporating into our master plan for the downtown, a parking area. And so this does, when we add, whether it's 35, whether it's 20, whether it's 10, it does fulfill that from a council body perspective when we said, hey, that's part of our master plan. So I just want to make sure that that's not lost. I understand. I mean, hey, if I was just developed this specifically through the eyes of a festival, lot, and that's our primary focus, it wouldn't have the dual purpose. But that was intentional because we were trying to do both at the same time. And with the limited options in downtown for the city to purchase an asset, that was one of the reasons why I was so favorable to what is already being suggested, because I think what's great is that festival lots get used seasonally, that sort of thing, but then for peak, for economic and business perspective, I mean, a lot of the times they're not used, and so being able to use that space for both and provide for businesses downtown, I think it's a good compromise, so I just appreciate that, so thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Thank you. The improvements that we are thinking about making besides the redevelopment, like the changes to the chiropractor building and other things like that, is there any funding currently devoted to that? Or is that something?
Not currently, although there is some money left there's a small amount of money left from that 75,000 that was part of the concept design aspect.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Teague.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion item 7.2, the 2025-2026 biennial budget update with Julie Elson.
Good evening, Mayor, City Administrator, and Council. Closer, okay. I'm here to talk about the financial status of our 2025 and where we ended the year. These numbers are preliminary though, and they will change as I work through doing the annual report. Not substantially, but just a little bit. Okay, next slide. So again, the meeting objectives are to establish a shared understanding of our current financial position based on where we ended 2025, identify near-term risks and decision points that we need to make as we go into the 2027-2028 budget and planning for that, and align on budget planning expectations. Next slide. So I'm going to start off with a summary of our 2024 audit. Next slide. As you all know, we did the exit conference a couple weeks ago, and overall the audit was clean. You had a handout at each of your desks explaining some of the exit items that came up. Several corrective actions have already been implemented. Additional policy and process improvements are planned for 2026, and documentation and review practices, we continue to standardize those so that make it easier for any staff trying to do whatever those policies, practices, procedures are. And we are focusing on strengthening the documentation as well as internal controls as part of what came out of the audit. So next slide. Actions completed, we updated the note disclosure and statements, and this was before the audit was even finalized, to capture the compensated absences disclosure and update that information. We, Jody has already taken action and changed how she is reporting the meeting minutes and including those voucher approvals in that documentation. We've standardized instructions and procedures specifically related to the municipal court, end-of-day reports and month-end processes. We've improved coordination between finance and court on making those deposits and updated our process for ACH verification for payment changes. Mind you, that has been in place for like the last year. We just have not formalized it and brought that back to council for approval on that process. And we've improved our documentation on financial reporting and preparation and review procedures, specifically just making sure we've documented how we're putting together that annual report. And increased supervisory review related to police shift trades and those timesheets review. Next slide. So as our next steps, as I said, we will come back and formalize those policies, specifically the policy related to electronic payments, and create a cash handling policy, including establishing written exceptions for some of those things that came out of the audit, and then developing a formal police shift trade policy. And then again, we just continue to standardize our financial process and update procedure documents based on changing standards, which includes GASBs and BARs, which they have updates annually. Next slide. And then I will go over just where we're at the end of 2025 on our financial statements, and this is the other document. Sorry. So I know it's kind of hard to see, but preliminary numbers for 2025, we are coming in as planned in terms of revenue for the general fund, and this includes the updated numbers from the budget adjustment that was approved in December of 2025. So overall, we are at 47.6% of the budget collected in terms of revenues, and our major revenues or taxes, we are at 49.7%. Just like to point out a couple of other key areas that we are watching and paying close attention to, and that would be our building plan check fee revenue, which is still down about 32% from 2024, as well as we've seen a decrease in interest earnings of about 43.2% compared to 2024. So we're watching those closely. Next page is the expenditures side of our general fund, and our expenditures are in line with where we would expect to be. We're at about 49.6% of budget. I will point out a couple of areas here as well. Our human services is at 80%, and that is primarily due to budget reductions that were implemented, and we removed funding for the contractor in 2026, as well as the needs assessment. So it is in line with where we would expect to be based on those budget reductions. And then the legislative is at 74% of budget expended. However, we removed the budget for both the state and federal lobbyists in 2026. So that is still in line with where we would expect to be, and just expenditures will not be happening in 2026 in those areas. Okay. Next page. Revenues in other funds are coming in as planned. A couple of areas I will point out here is the street fund. Our right-of-way permit fee revenue is down 34% from 2024. And then water CIP revenue is high there due to $4.4 million in bond proceeds we received in December, and that was approved by council. However, our water capital fees are down by 51% compared to 2024. And sewer, we received the $13.4 million in bond proceeds that we received in December in the sewer fund. Sewer capital fees are down by 49%. And then the storm drain CIP, there's a $600,000 transfer per year from operations that has not been completed yet, and that will be completed as part of the closing procedures for 2025, based on actual revenue and CIP needs. And then the next page in that is our other funds operating expenditures, and there's not really anything to point out there. Capital funds, as you know, are based on projects, and generally planning is less expensive than capital. So once you start actually building those projects, you'll see more expenditures happening. So, and that's all there. Go back to the presentation. And then next slide. So while reconciling the budget adjustment, I found an error in a formula, and the formula had picked up a negative carryover value. And so when totaling the transfers for REIT, the total was incorrect. So the projects and transfers themselves were all correct. The formula just summarized them incorrectly, which made the ending fund balance appear higher than it should. So we will need to bring this back to council to correct and align the totals with what council already approved. And so then, in addition to that, council already adopted the stormwater utility tax. However, what we need to do and come back essentially is update the rate structure and billing setup so that the system matches the ordinance that you approved. There's no change to the policy decision. We're just putting that into practice, essentially. So, next slide. So also talk about the funding for the vacant positions and filling those. Next slide. So currently, the finance department has 2 vacant positions. We have the utility billing position, and that has been filled by a contractor since February of 2024. And we have the finance manager, our deputy director position that is vacant. There's 2 police officer positions vacant and a parks manager position that is vacant. However, there's been a person filling that on the interim since March of 2025. And then in the executive office, Deborah has given her notice for retirement, so that recruitment process has begun. And next slide. And so when completing this shows our actual personnel costs for 2025, as well as projected costs for 2026. 2026 estimates include updated salary and benefit rates and incorporates the budget adjustment that was approved by council in December. Based on this, we anticipate salary and benefits in the general fund will be under expended by $313,000. So we have the funding available to fill those positions. The projected balance is primarily due to savings in 2025 related to employees that were on unpaid leave and are having positions vacant for a couple months or a few months before being filled. So next slide. It's just, I mean, there is operational and financial impacts associated with having positions vacant. It has service delivery impacts, then strain on other staff, increased cost pressures, as well as workforce sustainability risks. So next slide. And then that is all. At your next meetings, we will return with more discussions on the budget and preparation for 2027 and 2028. Any questions or comments?
Council questions? Councilmember Hanford.
No questions, but I just want to thank you for continuing to do such a great job with a limited staff in your area.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. other questions, council comments? Councilmember Beaumont.
Thank you, Julie. I know this is a lot of work, and I concur with Councilmember Hanford. Thank you so much. I'm just curious about what the sort of organizational chart has been in the city. You have traditionally had a manager under you, correct?
Yes.
And when did that change? Did that change when Director Hassert left? I'm just trying to get some background here with what's going on with staffing.
There's still, the manager position is still there, and it has been vacant. We left it vacant in 2025 in order to get some savings there. So it was intentionally left vacant for part of the year. I think Ben can maybe speak to that a little bit in terms of the org chart there, and I think, but it is still there, and it is still vacant.
So I guess my question would be, Director Worthen, has it always been set up that way where we've had a director and then under historically?
Go ahead.
Hi. It has not always been that way. This is my 15th season here of the show, and we've had varying different successes of that role. We've had a manager a few times. We tried to hire a senior accountant when Diane Nelson was here many years ago. You know, honestly, one of the reasons I'm coming back on the 24th is because it really worked best from my perspective and the staff's perspective when we had a director and a deputy director in that role, because the department's complex and takes a lot to get to even to this too. So that's why we're coming back on the 24th, is to ask for council authorization to hire either one of those positions. Only one, but ideally if we can get somebody more skilled as a deputy director 8 or 9 years plus, that would be what we would want to go for, versus the last time we hired a manager, we only got 16 applications, council member. That's not a lot. Give you kind of perspective, we have over 200 applications for the utility billing position. So if you look at that, like, that's a big difference. So we're hopeful to attract more people with deeper skill set. So that's the reason to come back on the 24th.
I totally understand. Thank you. And I also had the same question about parks, the hierarchy, just, you know, my time with parks under Mike Farrell. At one point when I started as a park board member, he was doing everything, and Denise Jacobson was still there, but same thing with the director, manager setup. It's trying to balance out the workload, and I'm just wondering if you could speak to that too.
Yeah, when I first got here, there was a director and a supervisor, and then as you know, we were able to build in that sort of middle layer. That's when that parks manager really came in, and that started with a parks planner, and then that morphed into a parks manager where we're at now. And again, that middle layer is really helpful because, to your point, Mike was doing everything from supervision on up. It included capital planning and operations, and so it was a lot. So as soon as we were able to build in that manager role, that's when we struck that position.
Right. So, Director, you are over the entire department, so you're supervising everyone at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Director Worthen.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is discussion item 7.3, proposed opioid settlement funding programs with Rachel Adams. Come on up.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Monroe City Council members. This item is coming back to you with the requested program costs, metrics, and outcomes, which are all attached. I hope you had an opportunity to take a look at those. And what we are hoping to receive today is just further direction on the council's preferred option, A or B. The difference being option B moves some funding from the law enforcement embedded social worker line and the mobile mental health co-responder line into creating a prevention line with the Monroe Community Coalition. Approving or preferring one of the 5-year plans tonight doesn't mean that these plans are not going to be subject to change. We understand that the opioid settlement funding distribution cycles are fairly varied and coming in at different times. So we're going to be taking contracts annually to try and implement this plan. If council can give us direction on which plan is preferred, the 2026 contracts that would be implemented would obligate a maximum of $76,035 of the $250,000 in settlement funds that the City of Monroe has already received to date. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, council? Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Rachel. In the presentation we just got from Director Elsom, the opioid settlement fund revenues line is coming in 76% under compared to 2024. It was budgeted for 2025, 2026 at 280, and we've received 50 of that a year into the budget. So when we're talking about kind of what we want to do with the funds, are those already banked? Is there, because if
It's my understanding that we've already received those funds. Is that?
The confusion is between funds that we have received over the last several years. So the balance in the fund, it's my understanding, is a little over 200,000. That is separate from, of course, what you're mentioning, Councilmember Walker, which is how much money have we receipted in for the year. And I think the intent of what the opioid settlement discussion is this evening is two things. One, how comfortable is the council with proceeding with contracts for a single year, 2026? And then how comfortable is council with either option A or option B for future years? That's not to say that we're obligating that we are going to have contracts in any one of those 5 years. We would bring those back annually to you for consideration as part of the budget. So you would have annually an opportunity to look at not only the programs, but the expenditures that are a part of that program. So if you take the dollars away for future years and just ask yourselves, how comfortable are you with the programs? That's really the question that we're trying to answer tonight. If you also want to provide direction that says, given what we have currently available to us that we've collected from previous years, but not yet spent, how comfortable are you spending that money, $76,000?
Yes, 36.
$76,000 in 2026. So those are the two questions that are in front of you this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other Councilmember Fisher.
Yeah, so moving this $25,000 over the next 5 years for the Monroe Community Coalition, how does that going to affect specifically the mobile health, mental health co-responder and law enforcement embedded social worker programs?
So for Mobile Mental Health Co-Responder, Plan A funds that program as part of Monroe's contribution at 23.8%, and the Law Enforcement Embedded Social Worker funds that program at 25%. And Plan B, the Mobile Mental Health Co-Responder program would be funded at 20%, and the Law Enforcement Embedded Social Worker would be funded at 24%. So a difference of about 3% and 1%.
Okay, and then how often do we have those units available? I know the embedded social worker, I don't believe is 7 days a week, right?
No, that's
and neither is a mobile mental health co-responder, correct?
Correct. The Mobile Mental Health Co-Responder is a 40-hour-a-week position. I believe her schedule is 4/10s. And the Law Enforcement Embedded Social Worker program is a 20-hour-a-week program. And I would have to defer to Chief for the exact schedule. I think it's 2 days a week, 2 or 3, 2.
And then the mobile mental health co-responder, is that for the Valley? Is that, or it's not just our community,
yes,
correct?
That's why we're comfortable funding that at a 20% or a 23% amount, is because that would need to be The entirety of the program going forward would need to have other jurisdictions contributing to that funding also.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Who is the Monroe Community Coalition? I've not heard of that group before. Is that?
So that is a group based out of the Monroe School District in the Prevention Department, led by Joe Nigel. And I believe their president this year is Chris Gray. And it's a group of professionals and residents and parents that meet together and discuss ways to use data-informed programs to prevent student use and promote student mental wellness. I know, yes, I know. I know a couple council members also sit on the board, so if there's anything that I've missed.
Yeah, and I believe we sent a report out. Didn't you send a report out to council on the coalition? And an update. And I know Councilmember Fisher reported he's been attending the last couple meetings, so I don't know if you have more to add on that, Councilmember Fisher.
No, not really, besides the fact that I was also in the same boat. It wasn't something that I heard of. I think there was a bit of a hiatus due to some medical things that were going on with somebody that was leading the program, and then have since kind of engaged in it. The one that knows the most about it is the council member sitting next to me.
Councilmember Blair.
Yeah, I've been part of the Monroe Community Coalition for about 2 years. They do, like she was mentioning, the data, the evidence-based things that are proven to reduce kids from reaching out to alcohol, drugs, or suicide, mental health. It's like all prevention of those types of things. They run programs in the middle school and the high school. For instance, they have a Sources of Strength program for middle schoolers that they teach peers like conflict resolution and stress management. And yes, so any money that I've looked at all this. I'm just going to take my opportunity to talk about, I like option B. I think I've said before, prevention is going to cost less than trying to help somebody after they've already started down a path, and that is what they do best. They help prevent our kids from becoming the adults that have the drug and alcohol problems, and so I am very supportive of option B. And when I was looking at, I just want to comment that the cost that we are getting for like the case management specialist is just $25,000 a year. The peer support specialist, like $52,000 a year. I think when I was looking through all that stuff, it seemed to me like we're getting a pretty good deal on all those, and there's really nowhere else to remove any more money. I wished we could give more for the prevention to the coalition, but I like what you've come up with for option B.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is
Councilmember Walker.
25,000 over 5 years. So in a decision like this, I know we're not taking action, or there's probably not action tonight. Are we talking about saying 5,000 a year to this prevention programming?
That's what's being proposed, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And as the group, has this been in operation before this year? Like, was it in operation last year?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Got it. Sorry. No, you're fine.
Councilmember
Good.
Walker, you still have the floor. Councilmember Beaumont, I believe you raised your flag first.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yep.
Mayor. So I also would be in support of option B. I agree with Councilmember Blair that prevention and getting in front of youth is always money well spent. However, I do have some questions. $5,000 a year is not a whole lot of money, but we do want to make sure the efficacy of the program is there. So I'm just curious, what does this look like? Is it formal programs that they use? Are they sitting around? Are there presentations? Who's sort of leading the charge with this? Thank you.
Yes. So one of the attachments has the Monroe Community Coalition 2025 Opioid Prevention Project proposal, where it discusses their strategies, descriptions, and activities, and their budget for each. Those Those numbers are Monroe resident students based. So that has to do with the low cost. And some of these programs are extremely low cost as far as prevention goes. The sport intervention program is a one-time intervention that is evidence-based and is an extremely effective program.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanford.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the coalition has come to council on and off for several years and done presentations on what they do and their findings, and they've given some great reports. To me, they've been vital for this community to help in prevention. So I'm also supporting option B. Councilmember Blair said it beautifully, so thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Gamble.
Yeah, I was going to say very essentially what Kevin had said. It was 2013 when they launched. It was like July 2013, and the only thing I would ask is that, because I do miss, we used to get regular, because we support, and I remember us getting together for a Screenagers event that was at Galaxy Theater. They were also very much tied in with the Monroe Public School Foundation Board and in support. I think also, just from a historical perspective, one of the other things is that COVID was impacted their outreach, because it was, you couldn't, outreach to youth, and they were all in home and stuff, but they also have a suicide prevention focus. There's just a lot of preventative stuff there. But it is only as good as the volunteers that are active in leadership and running it. But I do like the fact that it is cross, multiple, they kind of pull together all the different entities that are within the community to kind of work together. So I'm in support of option B as well. And then obviously we get to review it every year. And if we're not seeing that we're getting that type of, return, then we could reallocate it to the other ones that we're supporting. So, but I would want to, I would want to have on a quarterly basis, hey, can we get Mr. Nigel to come, and because he used to do that, and give us an update on, what the coalition did for that quarter and what the plans are for the next quarter, because another important piece of that is, I think personally, for us to be visible. Like Councilmember Blair is already there, so that's awesome, but it just helps the mission. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Yeah, thank you guys for your testimonies. That was super helpful. Since I've been on council, I didn't remember an update or didn't remember seeing them in the ARPA grants, but I mean I trust your guys' testimony, so I'll go with option B as well. When it comes back to us, is there any way we could get some examples of work or a presentation from a spokesman for the group?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councilmember Gamble.
To that point, Mr. Nigel had some, I'm a data guy. They had a data presentation once that showed some of the impact and statistics of preventative work and the reduction of, because they use a survey within the school district that would tell, who's using, and we track that from 2013 forward. And I know they have that data.
Yes.
So we'd be very interested in, so that you could see that historical on there and what the benefit was of it, so.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
Thank you. So we do not need action tonight, but I'm hearing consensus on B, so just if you can give some head nods. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there being no need for an executive session this evening, if there's no objections, we'll adjourn the meeting. Hearing no objections, we're adjourned.